Welcome back to Inside Singapore Sports Business. Our show is brought to you in collaboration with Sports Singapore and the Toad Board. We are still at Gamescom Asia 2021, and in this second ISSB Gamescom Asia edition, we are tackling a popular and exciting topic, NFTs and the gaming space. We will be diving deep into the massively evolving play-to-earn NFT gaming scene, and we'll also be filming all of the action here at Gamescom Asia 2021. We'll also be interviewing many key players in the scene, so let's rock and roll. This is the second day at Gamescom Asia 2021, and we are very happy to have with us Mr. Matthias Cooper, MD at Colin Messi. Matthias, we're so happy to be talking to you. I just wanted to ask you, even though Gamescom Asia is happening 1 year later than originally planned, how excited are you that Gamescom Asia is finally here in Singapore?
Very excited. This is, of course, not the scale we wanted to initially put up here in Singapore, but I think considering the circumstances, it's really a great achievement, and we're really happy with the scale and size and number of people here. And I think the biggest achievement is that we actually allowed and able to meet face to face. I think that was really something for the gaming community which we needed.
Yeah, I think we're all so excited and so happy to finally be at a live event. Why was Singapore chosen as the first destination for Gamescom Asia?
Singapore was chosen pre-COVID. I mean, the whole planning was done really not with COVID in mind. So we've been organizing Gamescom in Cologne for over 10 years, and we felt there's a lack of kind of a tier 1 B2B gaming event here in Singapore, and of course we also wanted to do something with the community. This is the fastest growing gaming market in the world, yeah, I think Singapore is just the right place for Southeast Asia. A great infrastructure, great people, great community here. Number of gaming companies, publishers already set up office here, so I think everything was just right to place Gamescom Asia here in Singapore.
Well, we're very happy to have you here. From an events organizing and executing point of view, how challenging was it to plan such a big international event during a time of a pandemic?
Very, very difficult. I mean, we really had to learn a lot, navigate the safety measurements here, which are in place in Singapore. It wasn't easy, but I think everybody understood it's necessary. Delegates, exhibitors, they knew that it has to be done to create a safe and secure environment to meet. And yeah, we made it work. Spent definitely more time than normal in planning this and all operations here, but yeah, I think everything worked out really great.
I think so as well. I think the event has been really smooth. I think people are really excited. This is already day 2. How are you? Are you satisfied so far with how everything has been going? Whether everything is running according to your expectations?
Yes, I'm very satisfied, relieved that everything went smooth. I mean, you never know. This is really the first event in Singapore, not only for us, but for the entire event industry here, where we are allowed to have an event where people can freely network. And I think nobody really knew how it will happen, how it will be received. And I think I'm really happy and relieved how everything turned out.
Well, yeah, I think we're all so excited to all be here with you at Gamescom Asia 2021. Can you share with us your future plans for Gamescom Asia, and will we see Gamescom Asia back in Singapore?
Definitely. We have big plans. This is just a prelude. This is we always say this is not the first, this is not the launch. It's just to show people what's to come. And of course, we would definitely like to add the B2C event, and we are actually very confident this is possible next year. So in a year's time, we want to be back here at Suntec in Singapore and have a much bigger event with a lot more international audience. So basically, on the scale we had planned before COVID, and yeah. I'm confident this can now happen.
I think all the fans and the gaming community here in Singapore will be very, very happy to hear that. Thank you so much for speaking with us, Matthias. Thank you. Now we're at the Epic booth at Gamescom Asia 2021. So let's find out what's happening here. I think there's some pretty exciting things happening right here, especially for Gamescom Asia, right?
Yes, so Epic is a platinum sponsor for Gamescom Asia, and actually we are doing a very special, lucky draw competition where we'll choose a few of the people that subscribe to our Epic website through Gamescom, our QR code, and you'll have a chance to win one of 3 NFTs from our game partners. So the 3 partners are Trivia Crack, Ragnarok, and Splitgate. These are really exclusive because it's the first time in either of these game companies are doing an NFT collaboration.
That's awesome. And this is exclusive only to Gamescom Asia.
Yes, that is correct.
All right, so I'm going to sign up right now and I hope I win an NFT. All right, thank you guys. Have fun today. Thank you. So I'm delighted to be speaking to Justin Scarpone from Scopely. Justin, we'd love to hear your insights on how the NFTs or NFT games are changing the gaming landscape.
Well, it's still early days, of course, but I would say that it's a seismic shift because the whole idea of digital ownership is transforming not only gaming, but more broadly the entertainment industry. Our players, our fans spend so much time in our games and invest so much equity into the game, both time and often money, emotion, and they build friendships in these games. So there's value accruing, but now through NFTs you actually have the ability to take those assets and transfer the value that you've accrued with those assets outside of the game. And it almost makes it more of an investment in a literal sense, not just in a figurative sense. You're investing in these assets that appreciate over time. So that changes the player psyche quite a bit. And I think for us, it's going to open up new opportunities and new ways to tell stories, new business opportunities as well.
And another big buzzword is the Metaverse. So we'd love to hear your thoughts on the Metaverse and how game developers are monetizing the Metaverse.
Well, I think again, similar to NFTs, it's early days, but the concept of Metaverse is actually not new. I think what's interesting is that recently we're seeing a lot more companies and individuals create content for what is now called the Metaverse. So it is a much more user-generated experience, and it can include very robust gameplay, but it also allows for other forms of social interaction in a highly visual sense. Unlike your traditional social media channels, it provides the entertainment of a game, but the interaction of a social media platform. And I think that's new. And when you layer in that, plus the ability for the user to create their own universe, evolve it, and in many instances make money from it through things like play to earn, through things like buying and selling items in the game, real estate in the game, and other forms of transactions, that the metaverse over time, I think, will transform how we think about a game, but also digital interaction more broadly. So for gaming companies, it's a huge opportunity, huge challenge to think differently from a creative and technical standpoint about how to deliver these experiences with the consumer in the years ahead. So for us, again, it's an exciting new area that we're watching closely.
Right, and we'll be watching you guys and the developments very closely as well. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have with us Michael Chang from Makers Fund today. We have one more question for you, and this is regarding the trend towards crypto blockchain play to earn games. Do you think that game developers will all be adopting blockchain in the near future?
Yeah, very pertinent question given where we are today. In my view, not every game is appropriate for NFTs, but there are a subset where it's highly impactful. So if we look at some of the most earliest blockchain games back in 2017, 2018, the first genres that came out, they're all pretty much trading card games, right? They're all trying to go for the Hearthstone category, trying to prove it out because, as some may know, there is a huge secondary market for trading cards, right? Be it a Black Lotus if you play Magic the Gathering, or some obscure baseball player Babe Ruth card, right? But nonetheless, the concept of ownership here is very, very clear. Flip side of that, however, there are some genres where it may not make as much sense. I mean, could you imagine Candy Crush but with NFTs? It feels a bit strange. So intuitively, I believe that there'll be some genres that are typically more mid-core or core orientated, say be it RPGs or games involving ownership of some sort of land. These have a very intuitive connection with NFTs. But with that said, I think there'll always be a place for traditional monetized games that are not blockchain related, because sometimes it's fine just to go in and play a game for 5-10 minutes and not need. I mean, does Free Fire need NFTs? Maybe in the skins, but ultimately the game can probably also make enough money from in-app purchases alone. So I'm of the view that blockchain games will be very, very significant, but it won't be ubiquitous.
Great. Thank you so much for your insight. Thank you, Michael. Now we have with us Russell Tan, Head of Marketing and Strategy at La Liga, to discuss with us the role of NFTs in gaming. What role does your company play in this play-to-earn NFT gaming industry right now?
I think, to be honest, La Liga has recently just entered into the universe because of partnerships with Dapper Labs behind NBA Hotshots, as well as Sorare. So in particular, I just wanted to highlight Sorare, and that effectively brings us into this NFT gaming universe. So Sorare is effectively a football fantasy platform in which you get to collect NFTs of these players, and you build it, and there's the gamification behind it, and basically you get fantasy and NFT combined together. Right? So what our role is effectively is to provide authenticity and quality to a product like that. Because similar to fantasy leagues out there, similar to, even to a certain extent, the virtual football with EA Sports FIFA, our license actually helps to provide that authenticity. So for instance, right, because of that, Sorare players or users, they can actually buy actual license collectibles of players in La Liga teams. So for instance, the likes of Luis Suarez, Rodrigo De Paul, and all these superstars, right? So that actually helps to enhance the user experience. So effectively, that's kind of where we are at.
Right. And then, can you tell us a little bit more, where do you see blockchain, the role of blockchain in NFT gaming and the future of it?
I think if you understand what blockchain brings to gaming, is effectively they are decentralizing what traditional gaming used to be. So within traditional gaming universes, you kind of have to have all the assets within the space, right? And that's under the control of, say, your developers, your publishers and the likes. But what blockchain does is effectively it grants the power then to the communities. So users are able to kind of control within a micro ecosystem. And that's what blockchain brings to this table, right? Where users are able to trade, let's say, in the case of Sorare, the different cards of players, and they choose their teams, they build their teams, and they compete within different leagues in that sense. And as a result of that, you are also attributing real-world value to these NFTs within the blockchain. And obviously, if you look at, let's say, in the essence of a metaverse, right? We're not talking about the likes of Fortnite, because people consider that as a metaverse. To a certain extent, yes. But if you think about it in the likes of, let's say, using a pop culture reference, something like Ready Player One, or The Matrix, in fact, right? It effectively needs something like a blockchain ecosystem as well as a universe to help to decentralize all this and allow for crossovers, right? And so what this means is that effectively blockchain could be the key to really unlocking the Matrix, if I may put it that way. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you very much. I would also like to ask you, what are your thoughts on the blockchain and its impact on, I guess, not just, I think it gives power to the community now. How do you see it in terms of helping the game developers as well, in terms of maybe, earlier you mentioned authenticity, security. Do you think that developers or maybe even some of these sports players are benefiting from the sales of these NFTs?
For sure. I think within NFT world, I think there are a lot of different ways that not just clubs, not just players, not just leagues, not just game developers get to stand out from there, right? I think if you look at some of the most popular NFT games, they are made by actually indie developers. And as a result of that, they have attracted investments from, hugely popular kind of venture capitalists, and as a result of that, they've catapulted all these games to the mainstream. I think if you look back at where gaming began, right? For instance, I kind of grew up gaming, so I played the likes of your RuneScapes and all that, where effectively it was sort of like a world like that. To kids or growing up, for instance, myself, it felt very much like a different universe. I think what the metaverse as well as what blockchain is able to do is really bring that to life. And instead of, let's say back then in RuneScape, me having to mine something and only getting, ores within the game, what people are able to do now is effectively translate that into real world value. And to me, as I wouldn't say a geek at heart, but someone that loves pop culture at heart, I think that is something that's really, really exciting. And especially when you look at this amalgamation between sports, gaming, these virtual worlds, these metaverses, I think it's something that's really, really exciting for the future. Yeah, I can only imagine sitting in a stadium, and actually watching everything through VR and everything. And yeah, it's going to be incredible. Yeah.
So do you think that the future of gaming, we're going to see all game developers building on the blockchain? Or do you think it's not always necessary?
To be honest, it's not necessarily. I think because when we talk about the gaming universe, it's so fragmented, it's so segmented, not just in terms of genres, not just in terms of interests even, but I think there exists many, many ways for different games, different platforms to exist, the likes of your consoles, the likes of your PC, mobile, and in this case, a lot on the blockchain itself, right? So I think there will be different things that evolve along the way. There will be a lot more cross-platform for sure, but definitely I think each platform or each console in this case still has a part to play in this ecosystem, right? It's difficult to see them kind of just melding together at this point of time. But like I said, with blockchain and the way different publishers are looking at it from a cross-platform kind of manner, it is going to really, I would say, seamlessly integrate with each other. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for sharing with us today. Thank you. So apart from the exciting footage that we got from Gamescom Asia 2021, we have also scheduled some exciting interviews online virtually with some experts in the field. So today we have with us Mr. Leslie Chan. He is a crypto tutor from DeFi Singapore, and we have a few questions about NFTs to ask him. Hi, Leslie.
Hi everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We would like to just seek your opinion just very quickly for the uninitiated. What is an NFT?
So the definition for NFT is a non-fungible token. And so what it does is that it is unique by itself only, basically. So there can only be one of its kind per se. All right. So it's just one and one only, basically. There's no other things or other tokens that's going to be the same. Okay. So NFT is that unique for the matter. So for example, Adele, let's say we take you and we take a picture of you and we want to make that into a unique form. That specific picture belongs to you and you only, because on the blockchain itself, it's registered as a unique identifier, and there's only one specific hash that's actually given for that token itself. So that's how unique it is. So if you search the whole blockchain itself, you will only be able to find that specific ID and of your picture that's available in the on the internet itself.
So what if somebody just saves that picture as a JPEG?
There's no tie-up to the blockchain that's actually for that matter. So you can identify the fix as a result, right? So you will know that that's a proof of the authenticity of the item that you're actually buying. Yeah.
So the blockchain actually allows these photos or music or whatever digital content / asset, the blockchain actually allows that to then become unique. So it is ascribed to the item, the asset.
So let me give you another example. right? Let's say, because we are talking about games here, right? So Ethereum was formed for the purpose, right, to actually record the digital assets, the equipments, the weapons, and that you get during gaming itself. The reason for that is because if, let's say, a server is down, you may lose all your items, right? As a result. And that's what the founder did specifically, Vitalik. And he came back, I think 7 years ago, when he was an avid gamer, and he lost all his digital assets. So he went around looking for that whole purpose of trying to make that immutable aspect in terms of, hey, this belongs to me, right? I've worked like 2 years of my life to play this game, and I'm actually making a living out of this. And what happens after that? So if it's recorded on the blockchain and it's stored on the blockchain, he has irrefutable claims that this assets belongs to him. And so that's what NFT has come of age as a result from that whole, I want to own my digital assets for that matter. Yeah.
So NFT also provides this extra level of ownership over our digital assets now. Yes. So then, speaking of gaming, how have you seen? Because I know you see a lot of projects. How have you seen NFT impact the gaming scene after Vitalik?
Yeah, so it took him a while for him to develop to where he is, for the games to reach where it is now. So there's previously, I think 4 years ago, we kind of, people were talking about Ethereum. People were talking about NFTs already. Basically, they were asking, so how do we actually get to utilize and use this for daily purposes? And it is only up to recently that there's an explosion of people, a large interest of people coming in, and the barrier to entry, it was also helpful because you have things like MetaMask wallet that actually developed in the last few years to make it easy for the average man to come in to do this. And the technology behind it, which is Ethereum itself, giving the ability for you to have NFTs, to own NFTs, is through many years of research, to be honest, about 2-3 years of R&D to reach where we are, right? The very first use case did not fly very well, which was called CryptoKitties back then. It was just a test. It was just an experiment, right? Yeah, so it was cute. It was nice. People got into it back then. And right now, there are a lot more use cases for it, right? Especially with the advent of Web3 interface, basically. Previously, it was still in very much sort of under a lot of development. And because of the Web3 interface, there's now a two-way relationship online that on your browser you can actually interact, and it's almost seamless, and it's very fast for someone to actually own an NFT, basically, right? So to your questions, whether this is or to your question whether this is going to have an impact, definitely it's going to take an impact. As you can already see in the recent news, I think even Steam was mentioning that they did not want any games with cryptocurrencies involved or NFTs involved per se. TikTok themselves are also, I met a fellow compliance officer, basically she was telling me, how do we actually mitigate, when our TikTokers are actually selling NFTs on our platform, right? So there's a lot of uncharted waters at this point of time because it's so new and it's very, very innovative. And I think the adoption for this brings gaming to another level, to be honest. Yeah.
So you are also the co-founder of an NFT game yourself. It's called Dreams Quest, right?
Yes.
Dreams Quest is a Singapore-based NFT gaming company.
No, it's not. But I'm a Singaporean, so I'm a co-founder of this. We are setting up base in Singapore soon. Presently, not yet. So we are based off the one of the islands, basically in Europe itself. So we are actually focusing on creating the RPG adventure-based game, a fantasy one, which is unheard of in the NFT space itself. Yeah, so what it does is actually gives the ability for people to play to earn. All right, that's one. It's free to play as well. So people actually get to use the NFTs for and buy your weapons and your equipment, like I mentioned earlier. With regards to the gaming industry itself.
So how big exactly is this play to earn NFT gaming market in this part of the world, in Asia, or if you can, specifically Singapore?
Singapore is still picking up at this point in time, but I do know that there's a lot of gaming guilds out there. In fact, I've been approached by several few. These are like your small groups of gamers coming together, like 10 of them coming together and say, hey, can we do more with this? Right? How do we do more with this? Right? How do we actually monetize and capitalize on this? There are other games I think you've heard of Axie Infinity, basically, and that actually exploded in the last few months. The reason is because there's a lot of adoption and there's a lot of news and PR that goes out to actually explain how this works for that matter, right? And with regards to the the gaming aspect, when you have the play to earn function. For Singapore itself, I think we're still building to that stage. The disparity is only because of our dollar value. I think that's only that's the main reason why adoption in Singapore is a bit slow. However, it's picking up a lot of steam and a lot of speed. The reason for that is because I know of companies, even property companies, that are catering to the gaming platforms itself, the esports platform itself. So I think that's the question you're going to ask later. To be honest, I'm kind of jumping the gun here, basically. Yeah. So
if you're on it, like how big? I think our audiences are interested in sports and of course business. If you have any numbers with a dollar sign in front to throw, it can be USD. How, for a general game, do you have an idea how much capital one would need to start, or how much people can earn?
For the game itself, you would probably need a startup capital of at least 20 million to start off with.
You mean to build a game?
Yeah, to do the game, to kickstart. Usually what people, the startup companies would do is to raise 2 mil to 3 mil first to kickstart the whole process. And along the way, they will seek funding as well. And there are grants that can be tapped on as well in Singapore itself, from my knowledge, to my knowledge. And the NFT space itself is bigger and huge because you have, like in the recent news, even on OpenSea itself, and gaming is part of it, right? They have about the entire market cap is about $3.4 billion worth of NFT sales on OpenSea itself. And so gaming just falls a small fraction of it. It's close to a few $1 billion as well. So depending on how they market themselves, right? So that's the key criteria in terms of how to get yourself known in the space, right? And the support from the regulators and from all the different government agencies as well. If they see esports as something that is the future, especially if you're going towards a digital age, that's something that I think a lot of conversations needs to be started at this point of time to help both parties to understand in terms of innovation wise, in terms of how this can be actually be an economy of its own. These are things that actually conversations that we should start on as soon as possible. Yeah.
So then, in your opinion, do you think that all gaming will soon move onto the blockchain? We've asked.
Well, there will always be naysayers, right? And as I mentioned earlier, Steam has already blocked games that already sells NFTs or have a certain crypto function to it. Now, the only reason I can think of because for them to do so is because they don't want to step into an area that requires them to actually go through a regulatory aspect of it. So that's something that I think on their legal side, it was an advice for them. And this is just my opinion, all right? And that's why they have to steer clear away from NFTs or tokens, which have not been categorized by any governments in the world or regulators in the world for that matter. Yeah. So it's probably a preemptive move to say that, hey, we're not doing it. However, to put it bluntly, they have also already been doing things like selling your Steam credits or Epic Games. You have your credits. And these have clearer jurisdictions and laws that they comply to, so they don't want to put this together to actually convolute the conversations for that matter. So the big guys are playing it safe for the moment. Whether I see this in the future, I do see a huge potential. It's massive. Independents are doing already. So there could be a stage in the next 4 or 5 years where you could be put in a sandbox to test this out further. For that matter, to say that, hey, okay, this how is this going to be done? And that whole emergence, right, of play to earn in the first place, right, is too brand new, because this is a whole new sector by itself. Imagine this: somebody who owns a mobile phone, who's able to actually earn a regular income. How does he address his income in future, right? So that's a big question mark at this point of time, because cryptocurrencies or tokens are not recognized as a currency in the first place, right? Even though you have some little traction around the world, like El Salvador accepting Bitcoin as a digital form of currency itself, but it's not accepted worldwide at this point of time. So how do they traverse this whole ecosystem, this whole entire new space? So this is something that I think most gaming companies are not prepared for in the first place. We, for Dreams Quest, we're kind of prepared for it, because we have had our legal teams come in. Our co-founders and myself have a fair amount of time in the crypto space, totaling up to more than 6 years each. Basically, that have been dabbling in the space and creating projects for that matter. And so this is the portion that we are anticipating, and we are preparing for it as well, knowing that this will be the future itself. So big companies will probably take it slower, wait and approach, wait and see approach, basically. Yeah.
I see. That makes sense. So independents are picking up on the crypto NFT gaming.
Yes.
Thank you so much for this crypto and gaming education, Leslie.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are back here with Mr. Gary Ma, the COO at Epic. And we understand, Gary, that Epic is not only an esports company, you've actually been in the crypto, the blockchain, the NFT space for a while.
Yeah, we're actually primarily a blockchain NFT company, actually, and esports just happens to be one of the verticals that is something that we touch into. I mean, we work with a huge network of games, over 300 different game companies all across the world that continues to grow, primarily to provide those types of services, which is blockchain and NFT, digital merchandise, technology, licensing, all that stuff.
So for the uninitiated, how would you describe or explain an NFT?
Yeah, the simplest way, digital stuff, to be quite honest, right? I mean, we all kind of knew what digital stuff is. We see it on our computer screens, but what is different with NFTs is, think about, like, you could actually make it into an actual product, put a serial number on it and make it a unique, tangible thing even though it's only pixels and digital, ones and zeros and bytes, right? So yes, you can right click and copy something on your screen. That whole idea of what makes kind of NFT so strange to digest when you first encounter that is because it lives in digital and what, that exists. But what we're talking about with NFTs is the ability to create unique, identifiable pieces of digital content. And then from there, I'm sure you can make it expand upon that and think about what that means. You have all this digital stuff that you could buy, sell, trade, etc.
So during your presentation at Gamescom Asia 2021, which we enjoyed, you mentioned, I think somebody asked you about the metaverse as well, and you mentioned that Epic is having your own Epicverse. Can you also share with us, with our audiences who might be new? Metaverse is not new, but where do you see this trend going? Do people really want to live in a digital world? And what does Epicverse do?
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, I'll share a little bit of kind of the thoughts there during the presentation there, but metaverse is a hot buzzword, but what does it really mean? And a good analogy we use all the time is when people think of metaverse and this like vast VR type of thing, they think of the movie Ready Player One, where you got this giant, VR world and everyone kind of lives in that. And it kind of is that, right? Like a metaverse is simply like a shared virtual space that is accessible to many people that you experience digitally and not in your physical self. So that's in it in a nutshell of what it is. And that's why you see a lot of the headlines coming out from other big platforms and networks, Facebook, Roblox, Fortnite. Everyone is kind of coining that they're a metaverse for a new metaverse. They're going to be a metaverse in the future. And, it's hard to argue against that. So what we've realized at Epic is that, there's going to be lots of Epic metaverses, like those ones I just mentioned, and many more beyond, hundreds of different games, hundreds of digital platforms. So we believe that actually the next incremental step in order to realizing this kind of like shared virtual experience that we can all share in is actually to help create some of the building blocks and the rails between it all, kind of like an infrastructure that connects all these, independent metaverses together. And by doing so, we can open up the doors to everything that a metaverse really needs to be, which is open, interchangeable, item exchange, shared experiences that could be existing in multiple different places all at the same time, even though they are separate worlds, and all those types of things. So that's where our focus is on, is really focusing on digital items as the core kind of component of the future of the digital world. And through NFTs and building those building blocks, connecting it all together, you're going to create this whole entire kind of open web. They call it the Web3 open web universe, which is the entire metaverses. That's coming right out. I mean, we've been working on this for quite a while, and a lot of this is going to be unveiled in the near future. So please stay tuned.
Personally, I'm curious, how do you think the metaverse can add on to our lives? For those of us, I'm quite happy living in the physical world. I am a nerd. I do enjoy games. I do enjoy learning about blockchain cryptocurrencies. I am looking at the NFT space. As an artist, I see the potential in NFTs, but I don't know about living in the metaverse. How do you see that add on to our lives?
Yeah, 100%. And in the same vein of this whole big oasis type of thing, the metaverse and the experiences within it is not binary, right? I mean, we are not solely going to live in a digital experience. It's going to be a component and a element of our, physical existence as well, and in varying degrees. Just like you have people that spend a lot of time on social media, and there's some people that spend less so. Some people spend more time in games, some people that spend time less so. So, I mean, it's going to be there and it's going to exist and it's going to add value and give, experiences that, some people more than others are looking forward to, right? So it's not so much of a binary thing where we're going to just kind of stop, living a physical life. But I mean, we're going to see a lot more things that are important to us that are also going to be carried out in digital, the same things that are important to human beings, right? Just like, the social connectivity, ownership and pride of the things, of ownership of different items, like all these things, the interactivity minus the physical touch are still going to be there. So, I mean, those are going to be big core drivers of the metaverse, right? We're social beings. That's going to be a huge part of it.
Right. So then, and of course, I think it definitely adds so many layers to the gaming experience. But how do you see, recently there's been some news about certain big platforms like Steam banning cryptocurrency games. Where do you see NFT and the future of NFT gaming? Like with some companies coming up to be like, no, we're not going to do it. And yet some other people are saying that, all games will probably move onto the blockchain. What is your view on that?
Yeah, and again, I think well, those are kind of two questions there that I'll unpack there a little bit separately. But we were speaking at another more crypto type of game conference not long ago, and one of the things we shared and what we're seeing is like it is a spectrum again, right? On one hand you have the mainstream traditional games, on the other hand you have the crypto blockchain native type of games and experience gameplays. And we're moving towards a convergence, right? Everyone's going to fall on that spectrum. There is going to be no game will not have some element of blockchain to it in the future. Similarly, all crypto games, the sophistication of those is growing leaps and bounds, and they're going to start contesting like the draws that mainstream games have, like the quick lightning speed and all the different types of intricate gameplays. So you're going to fall all the way along that spectrum in the future, and it's not going to be so binary. It's just going to be what games want to offer and how they're going to include different types of features. Now, the second question there was about platforms. That's an interesting one because I don't know when this is going to air, but we just got the announcement that Steam is going to restrict access for blockchain games and blockchain enabled games, and Epic Store is going to try to make it work. The reason why I bring NFTs and blockchain perspective on this less so than about game distribution when talking about these platforms is because that's the area we live in. But this move by Steam is actually opened up more opportunities for game companies like game providers like us to act as independent third-party entities to operate and provide blockchain NFT services to the gaming industry. So it's essentially what we have been doing already. So which ultimately leads to less. Okay, I'll kind of back that up for a quick second there. It ultimately leads to less reliance on these distribution platforms because game makers can appeal to their users and go direct to consumer nowadays. And the big platforms will never disappear, but consumers are resourceful and they're like water. They'll flow to where it's easiest and most efficient for them or where their preference is.
Are you able to give us some insight to the market of play-to-earn games in this part of the world? How much, I think some people are curious, for those who haven't started playing play-to-earn games, does it cost a lot of capital to start playing, to start getting involved, and how much can they earn?
Yeah, actually, it doesn't require a lot of capital. What it requires, it provides an incentive structure to get into with a lot of your time and energy or whatever it is that the game is offering as the incentive, right? And a lot of times right now it is based on your time, energy, and the gameplay. So the barrier to entry is actually very low. And we're seeing it really grow in these kind of markets in these regions because of that as well. You kind of have, on the spectrum, North American high consumers, big dollars, less amount of time or less, disposable time. You got other areas, developing countries, et cetera, et cetera. So it really tips the scale in favor of reaching a large population with a totally different type of economic kind of situation.
Cool. Thank you so much for your insights. Gary, we really appreciated your views about NFT gaming, and we look forward to see all the developments in EpicVest.
Well, wonderful. Yeah, we look forward to sharing it all with you. Thank you for having us. It was great talking with you, Adele.
And we have reached the end of this episode. We gathered lots of valuable insights and opinions, and we hope that you have learned something new today about gaming and NFTs. We'll continue to be watching this space closely, and we'll keep you updated. Thank you, and see you next time.